One of my favorite characters has always been Batman. This probably doesn't sound too surprising. The guy's been around since 1939 and has permeated just about every form of media there is. He's among the top most recognized superheroes of all time across the globe, and he's likely to stay that way. In fact, you might call Batman eternal. And with that cheap segue accomplished, I'm the Angry Spork, and I'm taking issue with Batman Eternal, the year-long maxi series with multiple creative minds focusing on various elements related to the Dark Knight. James Tynion IV on the main story, with some help by Scott Snyder, with writing contributions by Ray Fawkes, Tim Seeley, John Layman, and Kyle Higgins, as well as various graphic artists. It's purportedly about different minds shaking up the foundations of Batman's world. So let's kick this off with Batman Eternal #1 and see if this series makes us want to turn the page or turn our heads. The issue, with script credits going to Snyder and Tynion, begins with Batman, battle-ravaged and unmasked, tied to a broken bat signal as Gotham burns around him. Someone off-panel taunts him that his allies are slaughtered and everything has been taken from him. So, it's probably Wednesday. Seriously, this was maybe the third time in as many years Gotham was hit with some epic citywide catastrophe. It sort of becomes numbing when it happens so often, like disaster fatigue or something. But the book is getting ahead of itself, literally and literarily. Cut back to now, where Harvey Bullock is at the airport to meet GCPD's latest recruit, Detroit transfer, Lieutenant Jason Bard, someone hand-picked by James Gordon. The commissioner's a bit too busy to meet with Bard himself, though, as he's at the Aerial Museum protecting a group of kids that Professor Pig used his Deltron formula on. Batman arrives in an armored suit because he's not copying Tony Stark, saying he had escaped a death trap as he wrecks Pig's escape plane. Prof. Porky threatens Gordon and the kids with a bomb, but Bats narrowly shields them, leaving Pig to hoof it. The two take off after Pig and his goons, one of whom, Grady, tells himself to think of the money before breaking off from the rest. Gordon takes the stray, radioing for backup as Grady heads into the subway and orders the rails and the station shut down. Batman catches Pig and is informed by Alfred, aka Penny 1, that two trains are fast approaching from opposite directions. We jump to the GCPD, where Bard meets Major Forbes, who was reminiscing about a time when his partner told him a woman had robbed someone and Forbes tackled her, only to find out she was just on her way to her job. Oh, the ribaldry! Forbes insists that neither Bard nor Gordon truly understand how Gotham works and what it has to offer. However, Maggie Sawyer steps in to call bull on Forbes and invite Bard to be part of Gordon's backup. Jimbo, meanwhile, catches up to Grady on the tracks, and with a few surprised onlookers on a nearby platform, Gordon orders the thug to drop his weapon, but Grady is confused. Gordon gives him until the count of 3. And if Grady doesn't put down his gun and finish his vegetables, he has to go to bed early with no dessert! At which point, Gordon fires, seemingly through Grady's gun, hitting the electrical box behind him. It explodes and takes the crook out. Batman is narrowing on the scene while ordering Penny 1 to shut down the power grid to stop the trains, even if he needs to override. Tracks aren't switching, brakes aren't responding, and one conductor tells her passengers she's sorry. Batman grabs Gordon off the tracks and commands everyone to shield themselves as two trains horrifically collide. In the aftermath, Gordon is in a state of utter disbelief, saying he only wanted to disarm the criminal. And if Zack Snyder were involved, he'd get over this tragic and horrific loss of human life in about 2 minutes. Batman, who was patched into the security feed because of course he was, tells Jim that Grady wasn't armed. Gordon, and the reader for that matter, saw the gun in his hand and was convinced the box behind him was shut down. And boxes like those were for station power, not the rails. So already we have a clue that something is wrong. And if Jim knows, you know that Batman does as well, 'cause Batman. And maybe some other cops would know. And certainly other subway workers would know. Remember that, people. Batman says he can stay, but Gordon tells him that there are other people who need him more. As backup arrives, Gordon tries to explain what happened, but Forbes wastes no time blaming him for everything. Bullock and Sawyer try to ease him back, but Gordon admits that he fired the gun. Bard is told to make the actual arrest, and Jim assures the newbie that he wouldn't have been recruited if it wasn't for his capabilities of being a great cop. Now, he has a job to do. Batman watches from the shadows as one of his oldest allies is led away in cuffs, word of his guilt already spreading. The last panel returns us to future events, focusing on Bruce's blood-covered eyes as the mysterious figure asks if he can see the grand design.
I'm thinking the burnt rubble in the north can work as a new playground, and the charred remains of the high school could act as, I don't know, maybe an amazing roller rink. Now for a hospital, maybe where that hospital used to be. I did not think this through.
On to issue 2, again scripted by Tynion and Snyder, where Mayor Sebastian Haiti is being briefed on the tragedy. They're still getting a body count, and Haiti thinks Gordon was being self-righteous, running in like a cowboy, and wondering what he was even doing on the streets in the first place.
Because he's a cop, and he was pursuing criminals that had drugged children? I mean, unless Gotham's legal statutes specifically cite a commissioner must be relegated to a desk, him being out on the field shouldn't be that big of a surprise. Or unusual. I guess it could be because he was there alone rather than having other cops to back him up, but if that's the case, it's never specified.
As Haiti enters his office awaiting prepared remarks by his staff, he wonders what the city is coming to. Apparently, it's coming to what a shadowy figure that the mayor recognizes said it would 5 years prior.
Well, this came out in 2014. 5 years before would be about 2009. So... Oh no, this man predicted the Flashpoint reboot, and we didn't listen! We didn't listen!
At the Gotham Gazette, Vicky Vale is hesitant about reporting on the train story. She and fellow reporter Warren are both in disbelief that Gordon would do something like this, regardless of their sources. Their editor-in-chief Mario only cares that they have sources, Gordon is in custody, and that in Gotham, the Gazette breaks the news. Warren mutters that he'd happily beat Mario to death with a sledgehammer, and Vicky thinks he's been writing too many Joker retrospectives.
An editor desperate to remain relevant regardless of the long-term damage it could do to the publication he's responsible for. I wonder who at DC fits that bill.
Across Gotham, various Bat allies are given the news about Gordon. Red Robin, however, is contacting Penny One from New York City while battling robots. Robots he apparently builds. The context? No? Okay, whatever. Also, his call isn't registered on the Bat computer, which is what Tim was going for. Not important now, but later on. Batman visits Gordon in lockup, the Dark Knight's silence attesting to the number of lives lost. Gordon again swears that the now-dead Grady was armed, even though he saw a printout of the security footage to the contrary. Believing Jim could have been affected by Professor Pig's chemicals, thus set up for all this, he takes a blood sample. Gordon wonders which of them Batman is trying to convince. Blaming lack of sleep and his age, Jim thinks he was bound to eventually see something that wasn't there. Batman doesn't believe that, or that Jim believes it.
So, Jimmy, already forgetting that you pointed out that the box you exploded should have been shut off, or that it couldn't have affected the rails either way? Don't want to be a cop and figure out a way to prove your innocence? Just gonna sulk? Okay, that's fine.
On the roof of City Hall, the mayor looks out at the city, recalling how his mysterious associate started a cycle of violence 5 years back, that city officials were frightened into helping him, that his men would leave bodies with their features burned away. The flip side, the mysterious man notes, was the power Haiti received in return. He sees the possibility for Gotham to be an Eden to give them whatever they want, and Gordon is the snake. Evidently, Gordon could have lived like a king when Haiti appointed him commissioner, but chose to throw in with the freaks. The mystery figure states Gordon dragged the mayor down too, and now the city is fighting back.
This guy seems to understand the story of Eden about as well as a cynical teenager that never read it, but claims to have so he can pass himself off as all well-read and intellectual.
We get an early introduction to Jim Corrigan, host of The Spectre, when a cop notices him at the scene of the subway accident. He uses magic to make her forget and says some ominous stuff about greater evils existing. Way to contribute, that scene was totally necessary. They don't even indicate that this is supposed to be Corrigan, which seems like it would confuse people who aren't already familiar with him, especially people who were introduced to comics through the New 52. Moving on to Arkham Asylum, Alexander Sartorius, also known as Dr. Phosphorus, has been screaming in his cell for a few days about voices coming from down below, repeating a name over and over. A couple staffers walk out, talking about increasing his dosage, as Phosphorus encounters a green phantom in his cell, telling him to call the name he's been hearing. Blackfire.
You're not talking about Starfire's sister, are you? I mean, how badly is she messed up in this stupid rebooted universe?
At Gotham's Metro Transit Authority, Batman has incapacitated several guards to watch footage of the aftermath of the accident, when a creaking sound influences him to throw several bat shuriken at Catwoman. Batman says a friend of his is in trouble and that he hasn't got time for her, ignoring Selina's flirtations. He wants a clear view of the man Gordon was chasing, convinced his breaking off from the rest of Pig's crew was deliberate. I think this progression of the investigation would have worked better if Grady broke off without talking to himself in issue 1. It would have felt more like the mystery was unraveling rather than making the reader wait for the explanation of obvious hints. Connecting the MTA systems to his own network, something apparently Catwoman needed to know, the last panel on this page closes in on his face and he mutters, "No, not him." Who is he talking about? Find out after this jump back to the mayor and his mystery date. The shadowed figure waxes on that it's time to take Gotham back from the freaks. When Haiti asks if he framed Gordon, the figure replies that he doesn't really want to know. Everyone has a part to play, and this is, as the cliche goes, just the beginning. Batman leaves the MTA, telling Penny One to send an all-points bulletin on all former associates of WAIT! Catwoman has followed him and insists on knowing what Batman's deal is. He says that the man Gordon was chasing, Derek Grady, was run out of town 5 years back along with his boss, by Bats in the Commish. That boss, and Mayor Haiti's shadowy friend, is Carmine the Roman Falcone, who tells Haiti that they'll set things right in the upcoming war for Gotham's soul.
So, why was Catwoman at the MTA? I don't want a fan theory, no matter how good it might seem. There should be a written explanation within the story as to what she's doing there. And to flirt with Batman is not a good reason. It's a lousy reason. And even if we were to go with that one, it still doesn't answer the question of how she knew Batman was there to begin with.
Next is issue 3, Tinney and Snyder scripting again, and the advertised return of fan-favorite character, Stephanie Brown.
Quick history lesson. Stephanie Brown started out as the spoiler to ruin the plans of her father, the Clue Master. She kept going, even though she was repeatedly told, particularly by Batman of all people, to quit. She didn't, but there were times she would kind of take time off, like when she got pregnant. She dated Robin, she filled in as Robin, and I was kind of neutral to her character, didn't love her, didn't really hate her, but then she died and I was kind of sad. I was glad when she came back, retconned that she had faked her death, and then she became Batgirl, which I was reluctant about at first, but I grew to enjoy her in the role. And after the 2011 reboot and all the terrible character reinventions we got as a result, I didn't want her coming back. Or my favorite Batgirl, Cassie Kane. I didn't want them being reworked for a subpar universe, like the New 52. Even though Scott Snyder claimed to be a fan of Cass and Steph, I was hesitant at the idea, because I know that writers can have bad ideas even for characters they enjoy, and even without that, they're still subject to stupid editorial mandates. I mean, just ask J. Michael Straczynski, or Adam Beechin, or, well, let's just get on with the review.
Stephanie is headed to her dad's house, talking on the phone with her mom, using the subway tragedy as a snarky way to tell her not to worry as she retrieves her cue pad, and will be back shortly. Steph was apparently dropped off a night early because her dad, Arthur, had plans. Just puzzle night with his loser friends, she thinks. The door is locked, so she climbs in through something. Can't really tell. Anyway, she finds it is indeed a kind of puzzle night with his loser friends, involving costumes and plans to destroy the city. She finds her dad with Signalman, Lockup, and, maybe Firefly? But is promptly struck from behind by someone in the shadows.
And somewhere Dan Didio is giggling with delight at the thought of Stephanie Brown being injured.
At police headquarters, Officer Strode, the woman that Jim Corrigan memory wiped, notes to Bullock that she has feelings things are going to get worse. Forbes insists that with Gordon gone, they can get back to work proper, and Maggie Sawyer threatens to make him digest his teeth for bad-mouthing their old boss. Oh, and he has a call from the mayor's office. Maggie's on edge because she's next in line for commissioner, and Bullock thinks she's the best for the job. Meanwhile, Jason Bard is visiting Gordon in the holding cell, saying people are looking at him like he did something wrong by arresting Gordon. He asks if Batman is out there looking for the true culprit, but Jim deflects the optimism by again stating the evidence suggests the right man is behind bars. But because Jim wanted him at his side in their war, Bard isn't ready to accept that just yet.
Why? Why did the writers put in that factoid about the hot box in the first issue if they're not going to bring it up ever again? And they don't. All the way to issue 52, they never mention something that would be critical to Jim's defense. This series started out with a huge, unresolved plot hole.
At the Iceberg Casino, Penguin is revealing to an employee that he knows she helped her brother bilk him out of $400,000 in the last week, so he fed him to an elephant seal. That's when Batman uses one of Cobblepot's goons as a doorknob to let himself in, then cuts the small talk by smacking a table with Penguin's head and demanding to know where Falcone is. Penguin insists that the Roman left years ago because of the impending power shift in Gotham, but Batman tells him he's back, and begins to threaten what'll happen if he finds the two are working together. Penguin alludes that he did something that would prevent Falcone from ever working with him, and Bats pulls another famous silent exit. Jack Forbes is at City Hall meeting with Mayor Haiti and Carmine, telling him that he preferred Gotham under the gangsters' rule. When asked what he would do if there was some trouble in the criminal underworld in the coming weeks, Falcone is delighted when Forbes responds that the cops would have better things to worry about.
Nope. Nothing sinister going on here.
In the Batcave, Bats is telling Alfred and the reader that nothing is adding up. Grady left Gotham with Falcone 5 years ago, only to return and even use his real name at the airport. He hadn't been with Professor Pig's crew long, and he says that Pig escaped in the chaos of the train crash, making him either complicit in the conspiracy or distraction. Either way, should have secured those bat ropes, Bruce. He reiterates that Grady was unarmed and that someone must have gotten to Gordon's mind, knowing he'd take the shot at that exact moment.
So, Clock King, maybe? Or has he been reinvented as a serial puppy murderer who bashes his victims with grandfather clocks?
Alfred notes that the worst thing in Gordon's system is nicotine, but Bats thinks too many things are happening that point to Falcone. Whether or not he's a red herring, he feels something bigger is coming, and it seems to begin with an alert at one of Penguin's weapons caches on the west side. Back at Arthur Brown's place, the Shadow Assailant is playing up how awesome their plan is and how important they are to rebuild a Gotham where they can seize power. All that's left is Stephanie. Lockup insinuates that she's seen the boss, may have heard their plans, and that makes her dangerous. While Arthur thinks that it's an overstatement, the boss says he should show his willingness to sacrifice for the cause. Sacrifice is an understatement, he says as he brandishes a gun.
You're Dan Didio, aren't you?
Taking aim at his frightened daughter, Artie tells her that she was always a disappointment.
You are Dan Didio!
And he'll have to do better next time.
Weird time to be thinking about having more kids, dude.
Steph jabs at a canister on Cluemaster's belt with something, can't really tell what it is, much less how or why she had it in the first place, and gas shoots out. Distraction is enough for Steph to escape the house and her dad's gunfire. Meanwhile, Batman is apprehending the trespassers at Penguin's weapons stash, telling one of them that they're safer in Blackgate than messing with Cobblepot. The goon tells him that the cops aren't coming, and that the Roman wanted to let Bats know he's got the whole thing planned, and that they're the law now. Penny One tells him that another fire has broken out across town. Falcone is indeed making his move. Penguin is meeting with the likes of Mr. Mosaic, Hypnotic, Mr. Combustible, and the Imperceptible Man, saying he won't let Gotham fall back to what it was under Falcone. I tried looking those characters up, and near as I can tell, they're New 52 originals. Possibly their names are touching homages to the Silver Age or Golden Age of comics. Penguin is informed that there have been coordinated attacks, specifically 12, on weapon depots across the city, and so their war starts tonight.
We'll break for brunch because it's a time saver. Then we'll go back to war and then vote on whether to get Chinese takeout or try the Mongolian place down the street.
At Gotham PD, Maggie Sawyer tries to mobilize some cops for the brewing violence, but someone off-panel tells them they aren't going anywhere. As Batman is informed of more emergencies, wondering how Falcone can be so bold, so quick, he tells Alfred to prioritize by urgency and rely on the police to take their fair share. But Alfred replies that emergency calls have been cancelled. Back at the GCPD, it was, of course, Forbes accompanied by Mayor Haiti, telling everyone to stay. Sawyer says people are dying and he lacks such authority.
Cue obvious twist in 3, 2, 1...
Haiti announces Forbes as the new interim commissioner and quickly leaves like an overworked UPS man. Forbes tells Maggie and everyone else that new policy is that they're going to let the Goombas deal with each other.
King Koopa has been unfair to his minions. This is his problem.
Forbes' real target is going to be the Batman. Gotham City's war on Batman begins tonight. 2 wars in 1 city. That'll go over well. The issue closes with 2 panels of Stephanie Brown, scared and crouched behind a dumpster, desperately trying to call her mom, saying that she knows what they know, and her dad is trying to kill her.
Oh, so this is how the comic ends on an upbeat note. Tune in next time for something less upbeat, more beat up.